Okay, our session's being recorded. With that, I'll turn it over to Yelena for the walkthrough. Thanks.
Good evening, everybody. So the purpose of tonight's session is to help you get started with Watson Analytics. It's an application that you'll be using for the rest of your course assignments. So here is an agenda. We're going to discuss what is Watson Analytics, and I'll explain what you need to do to get started. We'll talk about the 3D of Watson Analytics, refining data, and natural language questions, and we're going to talk about the prediction model, data visualization, and then how to present your findings and save your work, right? So let's move on. What is Watson Analytics? Well, it's an application that helps business understand their data through analysis, right, and presentations. You can answer the human language questions, like, for example, what are the factors of student poor academic performance? You literally answer the question, and it goes bang. It just gives you the answer, and you can process terabytes of data, and the answer is just in few seconds. It's very intuitive, and it just presents you the findings, right? And you can organize your findings into infographics, display in a storybook. So, and for tonight, I'm going to need a volunteer. Somebody count how many lines of code I will have written over the evening, right? So, we have a little bit of good news. Our students participated in a global Watson Analytics competition. So here, they took the first place in 2018, and the project was Effect of Household Pollution. This is the third place, right? So I put links for you, and you can go ahead and read more. And this one, what's really interesting is that one of the participants, he became one of the teaching assistants this term. So the online disease, and you can read the project that he did. All right, so this is a little bit of the history behind Watson Analytics. If you like to watch the Jeopardy game, back in 2011, Watson Computer was playing against two contestants, Ken and Brad. So that's how it all started. You can read more. I put some links here. Now, so what do you need to do to get started? Yesterday, I created a Watson Analytics account under a subscription called UMUT Betinskaya. Betinskaya is my last name. And if you have not had a chance to do that, after this session, please make sure you check your email, same email that you have in Leo, and you should see the invitation in there, right? So go ahead, follow the instructions in the classroom, and accept the invitation. If you already have Watson Analytics subscription, Watson Analytics account under my subscription, I want you to continue using it, right? And well, if you have an account and if you don't remember what your password is, I'll be more than happy to help you with reset. Make sure to check your junk mail, because sometimes you'll find the invitation there. Invitation email cannot be resent. Well, sometimes it can, sometimes it cannot. But please make sure to check your junk folder and accept the invitation as soon as you can, at the earliest convenience, right? So basically, this did not happen. But in general, sometimes if I use an email in Leo, if it fails, I would have let you know, but it did not happen yesterday. And here is my contact information. If you need assistance with accessing your account, that's an email to contact me, right? So this is an application landing page. After you accept Watson Analytics invitation, it would help if you could bookmark this page. So you just choose the bookmark and click on sign in. That's how you access it after you accept an invitation. So that's like your second access, third, and so on. And you're just gonna put your IBM ID. IBM ID is an email address where you received your invitation. And the password, this is the password that you created at the time when you completed your registration. Bear in mind that passwords are case sensitive, all right? Oh, and see that while we're on the screen, let me show you something. See this link forgot? After you enter your IBM ID, this forgot link is displayed. So in case you don't remember what your password is, you can click on forgot and follow the procedures, right? Follow the procedures for reset. However, remember that I believe there is a limitation. You cannot reset your password more than once per day, more than once per 24 hours. All right, so let's continue. This is how the landing page is going to look like, and I'm going to start sharing my screen in a few. So basically, you're going to see three tiles at the top, which is data, discover, display, and we're going to talk about it in details, right? In the left panel, you're going to see two areas, shared and personal. I'll explain to you what that is, right? I'll go over it in detail. But first, we need to understand the rules. One main rule is that you're not going to use the browser back button. Just for the purpose of this class, forget that the back button even exists. You will use the menu at the top left of the screen, right? You will use the navigation menu and try to avoid using the back and forward button because it could lead to issues. Okay, so and this is, I put a little slide about the help menu. On every single screen you see that little question mark at the top right. So if you click on it, there is a very powerful documentation system that you can read. Basically, you can read on any topics how to on the data, how to do the different types of visualizations, and how to create a display. Right? So the next one, this slide is a key. This is your workflow, the 3Ds of Watson Analytics. Those are the core functionalities. So you've got the data, right? You add new data, you refine the data, you may preview the data, you may edit column properties. For instance, you may rename, right? You may add the calculated fields. A data group is basically the binning. If you have the numeric variable, something numeric like an age, for instance, you can create the age ranges, right? Like in a survey. That's what is called binning. You could also, if the data is categorical, for example, states, you could combine them. You can combine several states, right? They call it region. Right, so that's what basically is data groups, and I'll show you hierarchies and more. Right? Discover means we're going to explore data. We can ask natural language questions, we can build interactive visualizations, and we can build our models. And you may share the discoveries across email. Well, it probably currently sharing across Twitter is not turned on, but it's possible to share through email. Display is the way to present your model. It's a dashboard view, right? So we've got dashboard, infographics, and in the next class we're going to cover the storybook. So the whole purpose is to communicate your findings. So remember these 3Ds, right? Now I'm going to start sharing my screen. Let me do this, share my screen, and I'm going to be doing, I have a local copy of the slides, so I'll be going in a parallel between. Now I have to figure out how to close that window. Okay, so as you can see here, this is a landing page, right? When you log in for the first time, you're going to see this little tour, this little in orange. And you can just scroll through and then click on got it. But at any time, if you need to repeat the tour, here, it's in here, right? So this is what I was talking about earlier. I have little tiles here, data, discover, and display, right? And it tells you a little bit in here what each one of this does. So see this, like right now I'm on the data tile. And what I see in here, those are my data sets. These 3 or 4, 5 actually come as a sample, and this one I uploaded it before this session. So in here, in this left panel, I see this personal and I see this shared. So what is this? Personal is the data that visible only to me, and of course, and somewhat administrator can see it, right? I can see it if I need to. So, and then you have shared. Shared is you can see whatever was shared with you, whatever permissions you have. Like, and this at the moment, you should see these 2 folders, and I have a recording, it's in the course content, on how to use these data sets, right? So here, this data is for the exercises. One of them is used for the assignment that's due this weekend, and the rest of them are used in workbooks posted in a classroom and in the videos, because some of you like to follow along as you watch the video. So those data sets are in here. And in this folder is other data sets that you can use for your big assignments, right? Major assignments. Now, make sure that everybody will save your work in personal area, because everything that's saved in the root of shared folder will be removed, because we need to understand that our system has 560 users, right? So anything saved here can be accessed by anyone and modified by anyone, so we don't want that, right? Alright, so this is your personal area, and this is on the data tile right now. Here is a data set that I have, and I can toggle between tile view and list view, right? So as you can see, this is a data set name, and refine means that basically after the data was uploaded, I saved as a copy. So I may have made some changes or saved it as a copy. And this one is Excel. It says the initial file format, right? CSV and Excel. And this is a data quality score. So basically, when you upload the data, Watson Analytics analyzes each column. It's looking at how the data is skewed, and it's looking if the data has any missing values. And based on that, it calculates the data quality score for each field. And then it takes an average to come up with the data quality for the whole data set, right? Here is the last modification date, and I can sort. I can use that to sort my data, right? So then I can toggle, and if I toggle to my tile view to sort the data, I click here and I have several options: name, last modified, the quality, and the type, right? So type is basically the data file type. So you might be wondering how you add data. Well, for your assignment, you will watch the recording that is in the classroom, and it will show you how to use the dataset in here, right? You'll be using dataset in here. But if you wanted to add your own data, you would have to click here, local file, right? And then you would need to click on browse, and then somewhere you would find the dataset that you want to upload, right? And then you're gonna click like this, and then you're gonna click import. This is how you would import data from your personal PC. This is how I got this in here, right? But if I wanted to use something here, I would just do this. I would click on refine, and then I would have to select save as and save it as a copy. Okay, so now it's processing. What is it doing? Behind the scene, it's analyzing the relationships in between my fields in the data, right? It's analyzing the relationships, and also the data quality score. So now let's take a look at this data set here. Risk students. The purpose of this data is to identify some factors that put students at risk, right? At risk of academic performance. And so let me look at this. Look at this. Oops, you click here. No, that's not what I wanted to do. You have to click on ellipsis here. See this? Click on ellipsis, and then it opens up the menu. And in the menu, I'm going to select refine. So that, doing that, opens up the data set, and it's a spreadsheet view. So here I have my column names, right? And here I have my actual data. So if you look at it in Microsoft Excel, those would have been the first row, right? The column headings, and this would have been the remaining row, the data. And since some columns did not fit on the screen, you would have to use the arrow to navigate, right? You could use the arrow here. Now it's here, it's showing me that it's saying that it shows the 4,000 rows. Well, it's because the data has more than 1,000 rows. So now I can click here. So if I click here, this is sort of like a menu, and I can, if I uncheck my column, I'm deselecting it, right? It will disappear from the list here. And if I check it, I'm selecting it. So that way I can select the subset of fields. This is really useful if I have perhaps multiple departments, right? And if I want to share a different copy of the file with each department, and for security reasons perhaps, I don't want somebody to see the GPA, right? So I can hide the GPA and save a separate copy with the GPA unchecked, right? Or if I do like this, right, I can click on unhide all, right? So that means it will have everything else checked, right? Unhide all. Okay, so let's close this out for right now. Here, that one should show me the data score, data quality. It's the data quality score. So the data quality score usually is higher when the distribution is close to normal. See this? This is a bell-shaped curve. This is distribution is closer to normal. Here, the quality is lower because, see this, I've got two values, yes or no, and one of the values is the more dominant. It's uneven distribution, imbalanced, right? So data quality is lower. Here, this says unique because, let me explain what that means. If you have a categorical variable, categorical column that has 50 or more values, it will show that it's unique. Unique, basically, it's not necessarily identifying each row uniquely. It's you have 50 or more distinct values. That's what it means. Here, low quality, well, because here every student in this data set is in New York. Right, so that's the reason, low quality, 0. It's because this value is the same, and in theory, you would want to eliminate this from analysis, in theory, right? So now, what we're gonna do, I'm gonna show you, let's see what that is. Oops. This shows the data quality, but this also shows the properties. See that? Like at the bottom here, at the bottom here it shows the percentage of missing values, but here this will show you the data type for the column, and then you can define the sorting if you want. Account, it will make more sense when we do the visualizations. It will make more sense to discuss when we do the visualizations. Alright, so let me close this out, and we're gonna do now to look at that. When you click on this column right here, column headings, you can specify the filter. For instance, I can select only specific states. So to do that, I can just put the check mark next to the states that I want to keep, right? But suppose that I want to select all states but the first two. This is a shortcut. I select the first two, and then I click on invert, right? There we go. So that's supposed to select everything but the first two, right? So then I can also undo. So let me adjust the zoom level. Okay. There should be a way to easily undo anyhow. So what you could also do is you can do the set condition. So basically I can say begins with, and I can specify begins with and A, right? So this is a condition. This is another way to select my states, right? It's just an example. Or you can do contains an A, or you can do does not equal to. So just bear in mind that you have these options. And in here, over here, it shows you how many values you have selected, right? So let me click on cancel. And I'm going to just go back and select all, right? I want to select everything. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, now we're good. Let me show you something else. This is a file name in here. And if you see a little asterisk next to the file name, it means that the last change has not been changed. The last change has not been saved, sorry. So, the way to save this file is just tap on this. Because, okay, when it's saving, you see this little globe spinning. But see this, you have a menu, right? An arrow opens up the menu, but when you tap on this icon, it automatically selects the first item in the menu. So now it's saving. While you see this globe spinning, we need to be a little bit patient, right? So here, see this logo, Watson Analytics. IBM Watson Analytics, when you tap on this logo, it returns you to the landing page. Oh, there we go, we are done, right? That little asterisk is gone. Clicking on the logo returns you to the landing page. These two here are your friends because you can undo and you can redo, right? If you did something that you didn't want to do, you can undo and redo. But that does not apply to deleting data sets. Deleting data sets cannot be undone, so remember that. Alright, and some students before ask me about this thing here. Don't worry about the space. This is a space for total subscription, so don't worry about that. And on every single page you have access. This is what I was referring to when I mentioned help. This is the documentation, and this is latest and greatest always. Alright, so now let's create the calculation. For example, see here, I can click here. This will add the column. But what do I want to do? I want to add a calculation, right? And the calculation will create a new column. So let me do this. Let me call this new column as discounted cost, right? Discounted cost. So what I have is that I have a column called cost, and I want to make a new column called discounted cost. So let's do this. See here, I can select my column, but since the list is long, let me do this. Let me type cost. See the student cost, it found it, and I'm going to do minus 1,000. Isn't it nice? Give yourself the discount 1,000, and I'm gonna click on done. And what that will do is it will add another column at the end of the data. See this is called discounted cost, right? And you could also create another column, right? And you can use this column in the calculation of another column, right? So perhaps to do that, I can do this. I can duplicate, right? I can duplicate this one, right? Duplicate would make a copy, and then I can do this. Oh, it looks like I copied it twice, right? But I'm just giving you an example. I can subtract another 1,000, right? So I'm done with that, and I can click on done. So what did it do? Well, if you go back to the end, this is what I did. I just added 2 columns. If I go back at the end, see this? I added 2 columns. But now, this is not what I wanted to do, actually. So I have to click on this here, on this little friend, to undo, right? I can click on this little button to undo. Undo. And the number of times you need to click is the number of steps you want to undo, right? So just remember that part, right? Okay, so you have to save at all times. Click on save. And once in a while you may see like application running a little bit slow because, well, it has to do with your internet connection speed, with the bandwidth, and also with what else is running on your laptop at the same time. Okay? So now this is 7. Okay, good. So next we're gonna do the data groups, right? Data groups. So let's click here, create new column, and I'm going to select data group. Remember that I mentioned that you can group categorical values into sets, or you can bin to numeric values, right? So to do that, you click here, and then you select the column that you want to do the binning on, and let me do the student cost, right? And see this, since this is numeric variable, Watson will divide the values into 5 ranges for me, and by default it's doing the equal width, so approximately the same interval width, right? And I can always, if I wanted to, I can click here and customize. When I select custom, I can slide these boundaries, right? I can change, and I can change the number of boundaries too. See this how many, right? Or I can go with default, right? So by default, these two ranges will be equal and 5, but I can always change to the number of groups I want to. So this is, I'm going to say it price range, right? Here we go. And now I'm going to select done. So what this will do is, we are adding another column at the very end. See this when I scroll here? This is a price. See this price range, right? So, you see that? Oops. This is a column, and if you can compare with the price, you would see in which range this numeric value fall under, right? Now I'm going to create another data group, but this time I'm going to do the categorical. So I'm going to select the data group, and let me select the, this time I'm going to do the county, right? I selected the county, and I'm going to enter the group name, region. Actually, this is going to be the column name, right? So what this did was, it picked up the number of unique counties in the New York State. See, this is a list of my values. Unlike for the numeric column, unlike for the numerics here, the binning is not predefined. So what you have to do, you have to physically create the groups and physically drag and drop each of these into the group. So, for example, I'm going to create a group called Region 1. Right? I'm going to create a Region 1. And now I'm going to add another group, Region 2. Right? And I'm going to add another one. And I'm going to call it Region 3. Right? So I've got 3 regions in here. And then what I have to do is, I have to select this, and I can just drag and drop. Right? I select the region where I want this to go, and then I just click here. See this? And I can do that, right? And if you click on this pencil, you can edit the group name, and if you click on this, you delete the group, right? But if you delete the group, it does not delete these group members, right? They will go back to the left side here. So here, and I keep on going, right? I keep on going, and then I can select the second group, right? And see this is a shortcut. If I want to place the remaining regions into the same group, I just click here, group remaining, right? Well, I'm just showing you what can be done, right? Okay, so now I'm gonna click on done, and what did it do is it created the data group for the categorical column. Okay, and this is closed. This is all the way at the end, right? It placed it at the end. Now this, if I leave it here as is, this column will be available for the calculations. It's taken a little bit too long, but this will be available for calculations, right? Now what else I wanted to show you is that, well, in this data set there are no hierarchies, but at times there is a hierarchical relationship in data. Like for example, you could have a year, month, and day, right? Hierarchies enable us to drill down. For instance, if you're analyzing the time sensitive data, right? The time related data, you can look at days, you can look at months, and you can look at year, right? Drilling up and drilling down. And in this data set, we don't have the actual hierarchies, because, well, actually we do, the state and then the county, but every single record has the same state, right? So that's not of much interest, but still, for the purpose of this demonstration, let's do this. Let's create a hierarchy, and I'm going to create the hierarchy location. I'm going to create location. Now, levels. And I'm going to say add the level, and I'm going to pick the state, right? I'm going to pick the state. And my next level is going to be the county, right? My next level is going to be the county. Well, here it is. So see this? This will allow me to drill down. I can do analysis by the state, and then I can do analysis by the county within the state, right? And I'm gonna hit done. Or I can add another level if I wanted to, right? Because I think there should be something like a school name. If not, then we cannot. But oh, this is a type of school, but there is no such a thing as a school name. Well, okay. But in general, you can have multiple levels of the hierarchy, and hierarchies enable drilling down through your data, right? So let me click on done. So we added the hierarchy location, and if you scroll down, oops, it's refreshing, right? So here, location, if you scroll down, you will see it. You will see the hierarchical values. It's taking a little bit to refresh. Okay. Oops. Well, it's because I am screen sharing while doing the WebEx. That's why. Oops. Okay. So, see this? Oops. It was almost there. Okay. Here it is, right? So this is showing you. Okay, so this field is a location that we added, right? And it's a location within the state. It's really hard to see. We would have to look at the visualizations to see how that looks like. We would look at the visualizations. Alright, so now let's go ahead and save this. I'm going to hit save. Okay, and I'm going to start doing the visualizations. So when you see this little globe again, it's saving. And while it's saving, you don't want to interrupt. So now, oh, what is this? Okay, you have unsaved changes. Okay, I'm just gonna do make a copy. Make a copy. It's because I may have had this opened in another window. Okay, so I'm gonna click make a copy. Let's see. Okay, and I'm gonna save it as copy. Not a problem. Okay. Well, this is very important. As you work on this, make sure that you open it only in one browser, right? Don't have things open in two browsers. Sometimes I do it because I have to log in as an admin and not as an admin. Like for today's meeting, I had to log in as an admin in another browser, right? Just in case. Alright, so now here when I click on the arrow, it shows me every file that I have open. So this is what I have open right now. And to exit, to close this file, I can just click on X here. Okay. So what I'm going to do right now is this. I'm going to click on Risk Student. And doing so, it presents the list of questions that I could ask about my data, right? So here, what drives risk, right? Watson Analytics, it analyzed the relationships between my variables, between the data in my file, right? And it believes that I might be interested in what are the factors that drive the risk of academic failure, academic success. So I click here, and what this will do is it will create a new discovery workbook. And see this, when you do this for the first time, you will see this little tour, right? Well, and it will say here that if you wanted to, you can drag a column from the you can well, basically this places here called the data slots, right? It will not apply to this specific visualizations, but when we look at other visualizations, there will be a slot, will be a place where you could specify to add. Well, I have to show you other visualizations. Some visualizations you can just place the relationship between more than one column, right? But for right now, let's just click on got it. Okay, now let's take a look at this. This is the spiral diagram, right? Every pin on this diagram corresponds to the predictor. Predictor is also called driver. And sometimes the predictor could be a combination of two fields, club membership and number of absences. So in this case, just to make it more readable, I can toggle. I can see only the predictors with one driver, right, with one variable. And I picked this data set intentionally. The strongest driver of the academic success is the number of absences. So basically, you see this? This is very important. Number of absences, and this is what I could do. I could see this when I hover here. When I hover over the corresponding pin, it should give me the predictive strengths. Every predictor, every one of these corresponds to the pin. The closer the pin to the core, the stronger the prediction is, right? And I can also do this, right? So depending on what data you're looking at, and then depending on which variable you're looking at, very often it's possible that no spiral model gets generated because it implements some method behind the scene, and the same method may or may not work for different data sets, right? For the different target variable. So here I'm predicting the risk, but if I wanted to do something else, I could click here and change my target variable here. Like I could look at my student GPA perhaps, right? And now it's going to recalculate my drivers of the GPA, perhaps, right? It's just an example. And it's going to take a little bit of time to load. While it's loading, take a look at here in the right panel. Based on what I have here, Watson Analytics will try to find the visualizations that I might be interested in, right? And if I click on the visualization here, it will add a new tab, and this is a new discovery, new tab of my discovery, right? And what we were talking about, each of this is called the data slot, right? So here, if you can see, the bubble size represents to the number of class hours, and the color code is a change in the GPA, right? So no change, positive, negative. And if I wanted to, I could add another, just drag and drop, right? I could add another one. So see this, this is another one. I guess this is, well, it's not a good example. I should have picked the one that has more, I should have picked the one that has higher variations of variables. So take a look at this. And if I don't like what I picked, I can click on the arrow here and I can pick different one. See, this makes more sense, right? Because I want the darker circle to represent the higher overall GPA and the lighter circle to represent the lower GPA, right? So let's click here to end the tour. Okay, so this is my discovery workbook and it has two tabs. By default, the tab name is Untitled. Oh, see this? See this? This is what I was talking about. It did not work for the student GPA, right? This visualization did not work. This specific visualization did not work for the student GPA. So let me return to the risk, right? I can type in here, right? There we go. So now let's do this. Let's rename this tab, and this is very important, and you'll see as we start creating the displays, you will see why. So let's do this risk drivers. Now here I'm going to name it as rename, and let's say class hours for class hours change in GPA. Okay. Now see this? This is good, right? So we've got these two visualizations now. To add another one, I could do this. I can click on this plus sign, and that will add a new tab. And I can pick any of these questions here, right? I can pick any of these, or I can see this. What is the model for risk? I can type in my question here. I just type, what is a predictive model for risk? And see this? Button analytic displays the questions that I might be interested in, right? The darker this icon is, the more relevant the visualization is. So, we're gonna pick this one, right? What is a predictive model for risk? And this is gonna do our decision tree model. And you will see more on decision trees in your next bi-week. So, but here, let me do this. Let me rename this, and I'm gonna name it as decision tree. Right? So here basically are the rules, and what it's saying here, the green color code stands for the student is not at risk of the academic failure, and the blue color code stands at risk. So this is basically the profile of students who are not at risk of academic failure. I have about 1011 of these students, and 100% of them are not at risk. See this? The green bar. And what are the characteristics of those people? They were absent once or no absences at all. Infirmary visits are 0. They belong to at least one club, and this is their GPA. Okay? So this is a category of people who are not at risk. Okay? And I can keep on going. So this is sorted descending. And I can keep on going. And as I scroll down, see this? at the moment, it's just showing this grayed out. It's just showing it gray. Well, very often you can have more than one values, right? You can have categorical more than one values. In this case, you've got two, right? So it just shows the grayed out. But sometimes, if you have more than one value, you can turn on this light bulb here, and it will show the color code. It will show the breakdown for the remaining values, right? So you can toggle here, and you can scroll down all the way, right? So here is 59% of 75 people fall under this profile, and so on, right? So now what you could also do is you can look at who's at risk, and this is very interesting, and this is true. If you're absent more than 4 times, then it's forget about it. 100% of people, so this, sorry, we have 74 people who were absent more than 4 times, and 100% of these people were at the risk of academic failure. So think about it missing 4 weeks of 5 weeks of participation in a classroom. In a non-classroom, being absent is equivalent to not participating in discussion. Right? So I chose this data set intentionally. So here, if you were absent from 1 to 4 times, and you are not a club member, no infirmary visit, and so this is basically the description. This is the number of people, and this is the percentage of those people who were at academic risk, and so on. So this is descending, and you can also look at this ascending, right? You can change, and you can also toggle. If you do that, it will only show the color code for the dominant, right? So see that I chose at risk. It will only show the color code for the at risk. In this case, it does not matter because it's only at risk and not at risk. But if I click on this, if I click on this, then I'm gonna show the color code for the rest of the values. Now, this is here I'm showing the rules, and you can also see the tree. So let's see, let's close this out. Here it is. This is where you can toggle between the rules, and this is a decision tree. And this is the overall predictive strength, predictive accuracy of the model. So, as you notice, that the strongest predictor of my risk is the number of absences. So this is the key. So let's do this. Here you can zoom in, right? You can zoom in, zoom out, and basically I'm explaining it more. There will be a recording in the classroom where I explain how to read the classification table, but I'll be using a different variable as my example to explain. But here, see this? This is all students, right? All records. This one is the number of absences, right? So I have to ask myself a question: how many times the student was absent? If the student was absent 0 or once, I take this pass, right? This is how I traverse the tree. And if I hover over the node, it tells me that about 3,400 students, which is 55% of all students, fall under this node, right? See, this is split, right? So this is the number of students that fall into this split, so to speak. And out of those 3,400 students, 3,200 or 95% are not at risk, and 181 are at risk, right? So now I'm looking at the infirmary visit. If it's between 0 and 3, I take this pass, right? And here again, it's showing me the percentage of the total students, and also it's showing me percentage not at risk and at risk, and so on. And I keep on traversing this until I reach the leaf node. And the dominant value at the leaf node is the class, right? It tells me where the student actually stands. So the whole idea is that eventually, if I have a new student and I want to use this tree to predict if a student is at risk or not at risk, I'm going to use my predictors, and I'm going to start asking questions, and I will traverse the tree from the root to the leaf nodes. I'm going to do that, right? I'm going to traverse the tree from here to here, right? There we go. So this is what I will do, right? You can traverse the tree like this. Okay, now to collapse, right? You can do this. This collapses the tree branch, and this one in here you have two categorical values, but example I'm doing in the recording, it has more than two, but important part is gonna be here, and you will see it again, the classification table. So the whole idea is to look at you want to look at the number of students who are at risk that were classified as not at risk, right? And the students at risk that were classified as at risk, and so on, right? So here, 549 students are at risk and were classified as at risk, and this is the number of students not at risk that were classified as not at risk, right? So you're doing basically actual versus predicted, and then you calculate the overall accuracy of the model. So secretly, it's the sum of numbers on the diagonal divided by the total sum of numbers. Right? You take the percentage. It's because, see this, at risk, not at risk, not at risk, right? So whatever falls under this diagonal from top left to bottom right, you add these numbers. Alright? And in here, it shows you which field as important predictors, absences, right? See this? Club membership. So in general, if you didn't have this cheat sheet, it would probably look at which variables are used as a splitting, which variables are used as a splitting in a tree, right? So, and okay, so this is saved, but one thing that I forgot to save is this. I forgot to save the workbook. So, let's do that. Click on save, and the first time it's gonna ask me to enter the name. I'm just gonna say this one, student at risk discovery, right? Okay, here it is. So this is gonna be saved on my personal area. I'm gonna click on save, and I'm going to exit now. So to exit this, you click here, and then you close this out, right? Okay, so now I'm back on my landing page. You might be wondering, I just saved the discovery, right? Where is it? Okay, you need to click on the Discover tab. So this is where we are, right? So this is what we saved. This is the work we just did, right? To create the visualization, what we did was we actually clicked on this data set, right? We actually click on this data set. So when I physically click on the data set and type my question here, Watson Analytics searched only that specific data set. It searched only that specific data set. On the other hand, if I go in here and if I type in here, what drives the cost, right? What that will do is that Watson Analytics will search all data sets that I have access to. See this? And now it's going to return me the starting points for all data sets. And see this? US fuel economy, where does that come from? See this? It's going to search everything that I have access to. And it show me the data set name, right? The data set name that was used to answer the question, right? Here we go. So this is the difference. If I enter the search string here, if I enter my question here, or if I can also do this. I can go to Discover and I can type my question here, Doing so will search all datasets that I have access to. So that means the datasets in my personal area and datasets that were shared with me, right? Datasets that were shared with me. So this one is in the shared folder. It's one of the datasets that you may use for your assignment. All right. So, and to close this, you click here. Now, what else you could do is, suppose that you're not sure how to ask questions. So this is a good one. You can click here, and here, if you're not sure how to ask questions, you can click over here, and it shows you different question types, right? So variety pack means how do the values compare by, right? So this is the comparison. Now here, this is to do the data aggregation, totals per, perhaps, right? And you can even select the field that you want to. For instance, I want to do student course per gender, and then I click on ask. And here, it's going to present me a list of related starting points, and then I'll just select the starting point I need to create new discovery, right? So let's close this out for right now, and I'm going to show you how to do the display. Okay, so I created a lot of models, perhaps, right? And now I need to present it. What you do is you go on the display tab, and right now I don't have anything, and I'm going to create new display. Yes, and by the way, I totally forgot. There is another way, yet another way to create new discovery, just to click on new discovery. And this is another way to create a new discovery, right? And then you pick the data set, and right? So there is more than one way. Okay, so now let's go back here, and I'm going to do new discovery, right? And I'm going to name it as student-centric dashboard. Okay, create. Okay, now I'm going to do, okay, so these are basically the layout, and I'm going to do 2 by 2. It's my favorite. Okay, now something to keep in mind. The more you put on this page, the more the page will take to load, okay? Just something to bear in mind. And I can do end the tour, right? When you actually explicitly select start tour, it will do that. Or when you create your account, initially it will do that, but this is a demo account that I'm using now. Alright, so I have four cells here, right? What I can add is that I can add text, I can add the existing displays, I can create the new existing discoveries, I can create add new discovery on the fly, or I can add links to an image, right? And I can add some widgets if I want to. So now let's do this. Let's add let's add the display that we just created. I'm going to click on a personal, and this is what we just created. This is the workbook. I click on the arrow, and the arrow lists the tabs, right, in my workbook. And this is what I do. I have to drag and drop. Look at this. I have to hover. I hover over the arrow, and this will fit this thing here, right? It will fit this visualization straight into this cell. See that? Now I can take another one, risk drivers, and I do this, right? And now what else I could do is I could add widgets, like for example, some widgets are shapes and so on, right? So like for example, let's add this one, right? The heart. Now let's add something. Okay, and I could add something like a text in here, and I'm just gonna type Yelena, right? I just type Yelena. Well, okay, so this is my first tab, and I'm going just click on it, here, and I want to rename it, and let's say, I'm just gonna say drivers. But you want to do something that has a meaning, right? And now I'm going to do this. I'm going to select, click on here, and I'm going to select the new tab, and I'm going to do this. I'll click just one, and I'm going to do the discoveries, and I will create a new one. Oops. Okay, so all folders, personal. Oh, here it is, new discovery. And this is what I'll do right now. I'm going to select this data set in here, right? And I wanted to do the map. I'm doing it intentionally. So here it is, absence of students by county. So let's select this map. I'm doing it intentionally. Okay. So here is my map. And what it's doing is that it's going to show me, see this, each state, right? Each state has a different color code, and the color code is based on the number of absences. And the size of this little circle is the cost. It's the cost. But do you remember earlier we were talking about the aggregation, right? So basically, what it did was, if I want to display the number of absences, see this, if I hover, this is ridiculous, right? What is it doing is that it's showing me the total number of absences, right? It's showing me the sum. But am I interested in how many sessions were missed by all students? I'm not interested in a total. I'm probably interested in an average, right? So what you have to do is you have to find these absences. You click here, and you're gonna click on the properties, and this property over here, there is a property called here it is, aggregation, right? That's what aggregation is. I want to select the average. So basically, I'm interested in the average number of absences per county. I don't care about the total, right? It doesn't make sense to take how many times each student was absent and take a sum, right? So I'm gonna do this. I'm just changing it. Here, this is basically when you filter. If the value is numeric, you want to keep the slider. And the select value, it's a pick list, but it does not work well if you have a lot of if you have a lot of values, right? That does not work well for numeric variables. All right. So let's keep this as is and close this out. So now, if I hover, the values are totally different. 2.05. Well, it's probably not what we want to see, because what does it mean, 2.03? But you can just think it's 2. But the same problem is the student cost, because it's calculating the total amount of money paid by all students in that state, right? So this is a problem. That's not what we're interested in. I'm probably interested in an average cost. So to change that, you would need to click on, here, student cost. You would have to click on the student cost in the data tray, Clicking it here does not do it. You would have to find the student cost in the data tray and do exactly what I did with the absences, right? Okay, here it is. This is called the data tray, okay? And this is what I was talking about, the slider. If I have to filter this, I can do it like this, right? I can select the range to keep. And here, I can just do these properties. And in the properties, I can specify that I want to take the average, right? I want to look at the average. Here we go. But keep in mind that this change will be applicable to this whole thing, right? If I had multiple visualizations, if I was doing it in a discovery, if I had multiple visualizations, then it would apply to the whole workbook. So now, what we have right now, this is called focus mode. This is a visualization in a display, but it's in a focus mode. So to exit the focus mode, you would click here, right? This is how you exit the focus mode. Notice that this is similar interface to what you have in a refine, right? So you can click, you can actually, yes, there is really a way to open this, see this? And you can actually do the, you can actually select, you can hide the columns that you don't want to be part of your, to be visible in your discovery, and so on, right? This thing here, it's similar to what you saw in the refine, but any changes you make would apply only to this visualization. So let's go ahead, click here, we exit the focus mode, so that will be minimized. And now I'm going to show you the filters. There are two types of filters, three rather. I could filter something at the visualization level, so I would just click here on the focus mode, right? I would enter the focus mode, and then I would specify my filters back down in the data tray, right? I could do that. Let's exit the focus mode. Alternatively, I could define the filter that will apply to a single tab, and I can define the filters that will apply to all tabs, right? So let's just do an example. I can do this. Let's see. I want to define the filter. Oops, where is that? Here we go, filters, and I want to select the state. Not the state. I want to select the county. I'm gonna drag it in here, and I'm going to show you something. Take a look. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to select several counties, right? Right now it's selected all, but I want to filter it by value, right? So I edit filter values, and then I can click on this checkbox, and I can say what I want to be displayed, right? So in my case, I selected only 5 counties, right? See this? 6, okay? I selected only 6 counties. There we go. What's gonna happen now? Where did I put this? It's all tabs, right? So what do I expect here? When I click on this tab, I'm supposed to see only the states, the counties that I have selected. Let's see if that works. Well, it did not, right? Yes, it did. It did. It took a little bit of time to refresh, but look at this. On my map, I only see the counties that I have selected. Why do you think is that? Because where did the filter get defined? All tabs, right? I filtered out, I specified the filter on a county, and I did it for all tabs, right? So it affected this map, even though I was on this tab, on the first tab, when I defined the filter. Alternatively, I can do this. Oops, I cannot drag and drop. Okay, well, what I have to do is this. I have to delete filter. Now, the difference between clear is that it will clear the specified values that you specified for the filter, but it doesn't remove the filter for the filters area. And this will remove. And now I'm going to do this. I'm going to put this county here. Just a county. Okay. Now what I'll do is this. I'm going to edit filter values, and you'll see the difference. I just selected a few. I select only 5 counties, right? See this? I selected just 5. And what's going to happen? Here, my data will be refreshed. It will be filtered just to 5. But when I go back here, see this? The filter is no longer listed. It will refresh, and I will see every single state, right? So I picked this for a reason, because it's easier to see when I choose the state, right? It's easier to see this way. And what I was saying about multidimensional, well, let's see. See this? This specific diagram, it has multiple variables. You have a county within the state, right? Oh, this is actually the hierarchy. See this? State and county within a state. See? It's a hierarchy. And then you have the student, cost, and absences. But if I click here, if I click on there should be a way to see this. Oops, you saw just group up. See this? Group up, and that will show me the whole state. When I do group up, it's supposed to show me the whole state. See this? So this is my state. This is what hierarchy does. This is my whole state, right? And I can drill down. I can drill down to my data by county, right? So now I see the whole, and I can go down. It will go down by county. And if I had something, if I had another variable within the county, I could drill down further, right? I could drill down further. So that's what basically the hierarchy does. It allows us to drill through the data. So you have hierarchical relationship where you have country, state, right? And then you could have a county or city, something like that. Another relationship could be you have year, month, and day. Another relationship, you have a category, subcategory, subcategory, right? Things like that, right? This is very useful when you have a hierarchical relationship in the data. But sometimes Button Analytics identifies it as you load data, and sometimes it does not. You can create custom hierarchies, right? Like, for instance, I could add a class rank if I wanted to. So I could have state, county, and class rank. It's just an example, right? Well, that's just a business problem. Okay, and here you want to rename this, right? You want to rename this. Oops. Well, basically, you would click on this and select rename. For some reason, it's taken a little bit of its time to load, but in general, to rename this, you would click on this here and give you the option to rename. Oh, here it is. Now this is selected. I'm just gonna click on map, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just save this. So this is a save, right? And it will save my display. Well, I want to save it as personal. Save, right? Saving. Well, now it was good at saving. It saved quickly. All right. So this is how you do the visualization. And you have a homework assignment due this weekend, and in there you create a visualization with just one tab, and there are no filters, because we're going to have another class where I'll show you more about creating displays, infographics, and a storybook. And we're going to look at more advanced visualizations in the next class. But let's go back here to the landing page. See this? Right here, this is where my dashboard was just added. The dashboard that I just created was added to this display stuff on my landing page. And similar to other tabs, I can toggle between the grid view and list view, and I can use these arrows here to sort, right? And also I can click here, I can rename, move. Don't worry about it for right now, but it will be useful later when you start sharing files. And this is delete. But let me show you something else. If you want to be organized, if you want to be more organized, perhaps you have multiple assignments, you can create folders in your personal area. To do that, you click on new folder, and now I can say something like assignment. I can say assignment 2, and I'm going to click on create. Okay, so now if I want to save, if I want to move my data set into the folder that I just created, I would have to do this. I would have to click on ellipsis, and I'm going to select move, right? And then I have to select this folder, right? Move. Very important, to move the data set, we have to make sure that it's closed. If the data set, if the file is open, it will show up in here. Like, see this dashboard is now open. But let me illustrate what will happen. See this? I'm here. This is a dashboard. I want to move it to assignment 2. Take a look. This is what's going to happen. I'm going to get an error message. And the reason I get an error message is because my file is still open. If you see that, you have to go here. First of all, let's check if there is a little asterisk next to the file name. If there was one, it would mean that you would have to go back and save the file. If there is an asterisk, it means that the last change was not saved. There is no asterisk, the last change was saved, and you can close it safely, and then you can move it. Here you can do move, and then you put it in your folder. Okay, so this is the folder. Now, where did it go? So this is what you do to see it. Look, you click here to expand your personal area, then you select here assignment 2, and this is how you see the files in your assignment 2 folder. Here is a folder name where the file is located. Okay, and you can create a new folder inside the folder. I believe the limit is 4 or 5 or something like that. In your personal area, the limit is either 4 or 5. Nesting, right? So now let's see. So what I did for you guys, I have slides here. What I did was I put a nice summary, and I want you will receive this presentation, a copy of this presentation. I would like to go over it again, and you would need to watch the recording again, even if you attended this seminar, because it's a lot of information here, right? And there are some more important things that I need to tell you. If you import in your own file, if you're importing your own Excel file, very important, the file must not be password protected. It cannot have password protected. You cannot have empty rows in there. You cannot have empty columns. You have to have at least one numeric field. The values in the same column must have the same data type. Every column should have a name. You cannot have totals and subtotals in there, right? So this is very complicated. For that reason, I already put the data sets in a shared folder for you, so that way you don't need to worry. Is this data set suitable for this assignment? Is this, it's not uploading, something is going on? It's very complex because some of these data sets that you see in there I already cleaned up. So here are some examples of what is wrong. You cannot have special formatting, you cannot have the colors, the fonts. Here, the problem is the names, column names are not descriptive. If my column names are not descriptive, I cannot ask intuitive questions. I would say, like, what is the relationship between A1 and A2? Is it descriptive? No, right? I'm not sure how to ask my question because every column of here, right, becomes if you look at here, if you look at this, every column, like if you look at this discover, right, and if you go to, oops, it's in the personal, see this? I selected personal. Let me open this. See this? What is this? Those are the columns, right? Risk is one of the columns in my source, right? Absences is one of the columns. If I did not put descriptive name, I would see A1, A2, and so on in here, instead of seeing the actual names. And when I got over here, that would have been very confusing. I would not know what the visualization shows, right? And see that here, I could click on this, and I could change. I can select different variable here, right? But if I didn't have descriptive name, I would no way to know what I'm looking at, right? Okay, so I just did something that I don't want. I'm gonna click undo, right? And I'm gonna close out. Well, at this time, I'm not gonna close this, but let me click on this. Doing that returns me back to the landing page. Remember this, I created the discovery here, right? And then I created one more discovery on the fly when I was looking at my visualization. But keep in mind that anything that I create on the fly as I'm working on the dashboard will be available only in that dashboard. So if I click here, that map that I created will not be available for other visualizations, for other displays. Okay, look, this is a discovery that I have saved. Right now, I cannot make any changes because the the display is in a view mode. There are two modes, edit mode and view mode. See this? If it's a pencil mark, if you see the pencil, then you're in a view mode. In a view mode, you cannot make changes. You could interact. See this? Like I'm highlighting one point and so on. You can interact with this, but you cannot make changes. To be able to make changes, you have to click on a pencil, right? So see this map I created on the fly. So I cannot use this map in my other visualizations. On the other hand, the discoveries, the visualizations that I created on the Discovery tab are reusable. If I create another display or an infographics, this will be available for me, while the map will not. You see what I'm saying? So whenever you create on a Discovery tab, it's reusable. Whenever you create it in a infographic or in a dashboard itself, it's not reusable. So that's the main difference, right? Oops. Okay, so what you just saw was a tracking spreadsheet. I have a spreadsheet where I track all accounts. So now this is just an example. Here, if Excel file that you're importing has more than 2 tabs, you'll be asked to select which worksheet. Right? If you receive this error, asset name, well, first of all, if you receive asset name already exists, right? When importing the file, if you receive this first message, it means that you already have a file in your personal area with the same name. So you would have to go back and rename the file and re-import. If you receive the second message, it means that your file has 2 tabs with data, and it allows you to choose which tab you want to actually import. Okay? In earlier versions, it would import the first tab, but now you can choose. Okay? So here, what I did was, it's a summary of summarizing data, what we talked about, and this is an important point here. You cannot write the custom queries. You cannot write the code to filter out data. You literally cannot. You have to use the filters that I showed you, right? The slider or pick list, right? So here I just summarized the interface, right? I summarized what the data quality score is. Well, I thought it will help you to have it both in writing and also the recording. So that way you have something to look at, right? And here, well, see, this is an example that we did. Well, it's slightly different example, but still I'm showing you that you can specify if it's a categorical, right? If it's a categorical column, you have to specify the group name and the column name, right? Because the groups are not predefined. So this is a data group. And this is very interesting. It will make more sense. This is a good example of the hierarchy. It shows that you can have the data by the country, right? You can have the data by the state, and within state you can drill down by the city, right? And same thing. Take a look at this. You have a Maryland colleges in Maryland that you can drill down to UMUC. Within UMUC, you can drill down graduate, undergraduate. So suppose that I pick, or doctors, right? Suppose that I pick graduate, and then in the graduate, I can further drill down to pick my program, which is data analytics, right? And then I can further drill down to pick the class, data extend. So that's a hierarchy. It's an example, right? So here is just basically it's a warning. I put this picture of the recycle bin X'd out. So, if you ever have to delete the file, you have to make sure that the file is closed, right? You click on ellipsis and select delete. But there is no recycle bin. If you delete something, it's gone. It cannot be undone. Even I cannot undo it. I am an admin and I cannot undo the deletion, right? So this is important. And here I just put something about how to ask your question. So this is a summary for you. Right? So if you put a question, remember that there are several ways to ask questions. And if I put my question in here, it will search through my data and also the data shared with me. And here, this is more on how to ask questions. Right? So I showed you this drop down, and there are different question types like aggregation and so on. I want you to take a look and explore it. And we talked about the drivers, right? This is what we talked about, and I put just this is a screenshot of what we looked at, and at the bottom it's called the data tray. So if we go back here, and I already have this open, right? Yes, I have this open. So if I go back here, this is similar to what we saw in the refined interface. But if you define the filter here, it will be applicable to this workbook only. It will not be applicable to all workbooks, right? So see that here I can just I can deselect my columns. This one will, I think this one will actually open the data tray. Well, that should open the data tray, and I should be able to see the data. Oh, here it is, this one. So here it's like a refine. Do you remember that? And you saw the data quality, etc. So this is similar to refine interface that you saw. So, and to close this, go here. But if you wanted to, you could click on the plus here to add the calculated columns and so on. Alright? So, okay. I realized it's a lot of information. So this is the reason I want you to watch this again. And here is just basically showing you that you can also build decision tree model for the numeric variables, such as GPA, right? So instead of looking at specific class, it will be looking at the average GPA, right? So you have number of students who received the average GPA, and this is just a category. What characterizes the students? It's just an example. So this is on student GPA. You can do the decision tree on the student GPA. It's a numeric. Alright? So it will basically, it takes a group of profiles and then it finds the average, right, for the group. This is a rule that describes a group of students. And behind the scene, the method is chi-squared regression. That's what it implements behind the scene. Right? So this is how it would look like for the numeric variables. This is how the tree would look like. Instead of having separate color codes, you have a darker color and lighter color. See this? So the darker the color, the higher is GPA, right? So that's what it basically is. Okay? And this is basically showing you what else you could do, different options here. This is for the categorical. This is what we looked at. Right? The different options. You can hover over the node and it tells you the percentage of records and etc. And then you can click on the analysis. Right? You can click on the analysis and you will see the classification table that I briefly showed you. Right? And then you can also, well, this is basically showing you the options for how to, you may change the color scheme, you may change the legend. So that's basically in a format. You can click on a format, and then there are different things that you could change. Like here, see this visualization, I can click on a format for any visualizations. And based on visualizations, I have different options. Like if I want to see the labels, if I want to see the legend, if I want this centered, etc. And if I want to choose the colors, this is a color schema. See this? That will change the colors. And so on. I can add borders. So this is the options you have here. And I believe you are asked to use some of those in the homework. So this, please refer to this in your second, not this week, not next week, but after that. So this is an example we have 2 values. But there is also a recording where we have more than 2 values. And in that specific recording, the model does not predict one of the classes. So that's really interesting. There's an interesting recording, I believe it's in week 6. So when you get there, make sure you watch it. Alright? So, this is how I created the dashboard. I selected the dashboard, but I promise in the next class I'll show you how to do infographics and storybooks. Here are just different options. Okay, you use widget panels to add text, and for the images you just add a URL. I think it's in a homework assignment that is due this coming weekend. Right? So, and you also may use the same discovery, right? You may use the same visualizations on more than one tab, that's possible. And here you might create the new discovery, but remember, if you create a new discovery while you're in a display, it will be available only for the display. It won't be available across the board. So here it just basically shows how to add the discovery. You drag and drop, and you want the mouse to be positioned over the error. Then the visualization will fit nicely into the slot. See, it will fit nicely into the cell. But in general, you can overlay the visualizations. Now, I summarized how you can filter, right? So this semester is something a little different. You're not taking a test, you're having the hands-on homework, but otherwise this would have been one of the test questions. Okay? So remember that you can filter specific visualization. You go into focus mode, and then nice thing about the dashboard, you can apply the filter to all tabs, or you can apply the filter to a single tab, right? So you can edit the displays, right? So if you show the pie chart, for instance, you can edit the donut type, you can change the color code, you can change how you want to display the labels, and then I put the summary of the different menu options and what they do, right? Toggle between a view mode and edit mode, right? Because sometimes you could be opening up the discovery, right, or display, and saying, what happened? I cannot edit it. How do I go back to editing? And then you will remember that Yelena talked about the view mode and edit mode, right? So, for the email sharing, it's not on by default. To share the visualization by email, by default, it's not on. So, as a user, you would have to just go to the account settings, and there is a checkbox that you would need to check. I don't recommend doing it, but in here, this is how you would do it, but I just don't recommend. Okay? So you see that we have about 560 users in the system at the moment. Okay? So don't worry about the space. This is for the whole subscription, and this is the third year we're using it. So we have plenty of space, don't worry. Okay, so, and this is a demo account. This is a demo account that I created for this presentation. But this is a subscription name, okay? But when you log in, you will see your username. This is your view. This is a non-admin view of your account, right? This is a demo account that I'm looking at right now. I'm not looking at the admin account right now. Okay, so you'll remember that, right? And this is basically, I'm just showing you that delete cannot be undone. I'm going to remind it. I've been reminding it throughout this presentation. There is no recycle bin. You cannot undo it. And you're not going to save anything to the root of the shared folder, because otherwise it's visible to 560 people. Anybody can do anything with it. So I came up with a rule. Whenever something is saved in the wrong place, this is what will happen. Yelena will go back to her admin account, and Yelena has a personal folder. She calls it trash, and everything will go into Yelena's folder called trash, right? And then if you're missing something that you've saved in the wrong location, you're going to email me to get it back, alright? This is the procedure. If you save the file into the wrong location, then I will be moving it away into the folder that I have. I call it trash, okay? So, then you'll be contacting me, okay? But if you notice that you saved it in the wrong place, just correct it. You just click on that ellipsis, and select move and move it to your personal area. Easy fix, right? Sometimes, if it's just a data set, if it's not a discovery, if it's only the data set, right? This is what I will do usually. If it only for the data set, I can do this. I'm gonna click here, and I'm gonna do this one. See this asset information? Yelena Demo. Okay, who is that girl Yelena Demo? Just assume that it's saved in the root shared folder. Who is that girl Yelena Demo? I'm gonna go to my tracking spreadsheet, and I will find what session Yelena Demo is in. I'm going to contact instructor and TA and let them know. This is what I'm gonna do if it happens the first time around, and they will just remind the rule where to save the file, right? They'll remind. It's the first time, usually. Next time, I'll just take this, and I will move it to my personal area. It's just to help you guys, because if you did something, I don't want anybody else to modify your work. I don't want anybody else to delete your work, so I'm kind of doing it to help you. So it's saved, it's sitting in my folder, and then if you need it back, you get it back, right? It's not deleted, it's actually, well, I say deleted, but it means it's in my trash can. But I will recover, right? So this is only for data. For discovery, I don't know whose work it is. There is no properties, so I don't know. How do I know, right? So you want to be saving everything in a personal area, and I'm going to be reminding about it. So here are some resources: online documentation, community, and here are some interesting use cases. Holiday sales planning, that's what some of you might be thinking about right now, right? So, customer service analysis, analyzing traffic data. Well, this is useful because you can see what they did in their analysis. You can just learn and see, maybe I can do something with my data, But you're not going to be copying, because the analysis that work for one data may not work for another data. So, and here are more use cases. All right, so remember we had a volunteer. Did anybody count how many lines of code I wrote today? Anybody, put in the chat. I need to know. Did I write any code today? And how many lines did I write? Anybody was paying attention? Is everybody still awake? Okay, no code. Excellent, excellent, thank you. Somebody was paying attention. Excellent. So that's the whole point. In this class, you're doing no code. We're going to save the file. Excellent, James. Excellent. Yeah. So we're going to save the coding until data 620. Okay? We're going to save that part. For right now, there is no code, and this is a closed source application. That means that we have no access to the code, and we cannot change the code, right? This is the closed source. We don't see the actual implementation behind the scene, right? We only see what's written in the documentation about it. And we cannot actually open and read the code, and we cannot change the code, we cannot add to it, right? Okay? So let's see if we have questions. Because if there are no questions, Yelena starts asking questions, right? You want to remember the 3Ds today, right? Any questions? I like to see questions. Questions? I guess, Steve, do you have anything to add while we're waiting for people to type questions in?
No, as always, very, very thorough, and I will only throw in my 2 cents worth that the best way to learn this program is to watch this overview several times and digest it a piece at a time. You've got to get in and play with it. You've got to try things. You can't just say, well, I'll wait till the assignment's due and do that in one day. Again, the reason we ask for 15 to 20 hours a week is we know what it takes to learn. It's a great piece of software, but you've got to play with it and then go back and look at this overview, see what pieces Yelena did, try it for yourself, experiment, experiment, experiment. I think that's the only successful way. It's like all software. At first it's confusing, and then the fog lifts, and pretty soon you'll be thinking it's pretty neat software for what it does. So that's my advice, but we will certainly have a copy of the links to this recording available to you as soon as it's ready, and Yelena will send a copy of the view graphs to the faculty members to post in the classroom. With that, I just want to thank her again for a wonderful job.
Thank you. Thank you for setting it up. Yeah. And thank you everybody for attending. So
I don't see any questions. I'm going to stop the recording, I think.
yes.
Let me go ahead so I make sure I don't miss out on having that.